Hello everyone, this is Rasha Salhab. I'm from Jordan. I am a PhD student in gender and diversity at University of Oviedo. The topic of the study is about the semiotic analysis of posters against domestic violence in Jordan. The justification of the study is that there is a need to raise awareness about violence against women by creating content that makes women's values visible online. Besides, the communication methods play a critical role in educating women about their rights. Finally, the academic studies in Jordan witness a scarcity of addressing the effect of mass communication in raising awareness of violence against women. Violence against women is a widespread phenomenon in Jordan. Every 3 women, there is 1 woman who is exposed to violence according to WHO index. I would like to provide a background of the study. My study is built on a famous case of domestic violence happened in Jordan in 2019. The victim is Fatima. She's a suburban woman who lives in a city north of Jordan called Sharash. She turned to become a famous victimized woman when her husband extracted her eyes in front of her children because of a fight that she had with him, as you can see here in the picture. So the incident was known as SSHRA after the journalist covered her story. Several feminist protesters organized a protest carrying visual and verbal posters to represent their empathy toward the victim and reject domestic violence. The posters had a massive impact on Twitter users, that they have launched several hashtags such as enough, Jerash crime, do not reconcile. This situation facilitated the circulation of the posters to reflect the rejection of the crime. The study aims to tackle the role of awareness posters in representing domestic violence in Jordan by applying the semiotic analysis method. My research question is, what is the role of semiotic analysis in treating posters that represent domestic violence? My methodology is qualitative. Through applying semiotic analysis on the case study, Jerash crime, for decoding and analyzing the most expressive posters that have been raised during the march and spread via Twitter to reflect the denial of the brutal violence that happened against the Jordanian victim, Fatima. So what is semiotic? Semiotic is the study of signs and their meaning in society. Signs is anything that convey meanings, so words, image, photographs, even street signs can be signs as well. So I have applied a semiotic analysis theory according to Ronald Barthes, the French scientist who assured that semiotic theory might be applicable on visual signs. The visual signs that are reflected from image, movie, TV series, and posters, so on. So the visual signs have 2 signs. The first one is the signifier or denotation, which means the idea of the message that might be created by the sender, such as journalists, painters, movie makers, movie directors, and so on. These messages are transformed to the sender, from the sender to the receiver. So let's start analyzing the posters that have been chosen from Twitter and online news. As you can see here, this is a sign or a picture that holds several meanings. The denotation or the signifier reflects black and white colors, which represent an injured woman with bleeding eyes, messy hair, and sewn mouth in a brutal way that causes injuries around it. The heading meaning or the connotation of this message represents black and white, which reflects a connotation of a dismal woman and a tragic life. Her tightened mouth surrounded by red dots means she has no right to speak or ask for freedom. Otherwise, she will get punished and battered. The signification of the picture represents a desperate and weak woman, lost the femininity because of her silence and fear of facing violence and standing in front of everyone who underestimate her value. So the protesters wanted to show that any victimized, passive woman will turn into a useless human, disabled, lacking femininity because of the cowardice, like Fatima. The second picture, as you can see here, holds several meanings. The signifier or the denotation of this message reflects yellow background, including a veiled woman exposed to violence, her eyes covered with medical gauze, which causes her to be bleeding instead of crying. The trace of the hand on her neck is colored red. The connotation of yellow color might mean awareness and alertness. The connotation of a veiled woman represents the victim, Fatima, due to her lamentable situation for losing her eyes by her criminal husband. The red hand around her neck and bleeding eyes means the violence that she experienced. The words Al-Ain bil-Ain means in English eye for an eye is a slogan state justice and ask equality. So the signification of this message explores the protesters who chose a yellow color to claim freedom and bring more attention to prove their points and stop violence against women. The red hand means the silence or violence could lead to death, which expressed the volume of violence that the victim experienced. Accordingly, there is a need for justice by applying the penalty code to achieve the slogan of an eye for an eye. The signifier of this message reflects a veiled woman with injured eyes and featureless face. Meanwhile, the black color dominates the background and the victim's clothes. Besides, the word at the top of the picture, La Tzalhi, means do not reconcile. The signified or the underlying meaning of this message represents Fatima, and the bleeding eyes means violence. So the black is linked to fear, anger, and sadness. Besides, the black might tackle the oppression and the darkness of Fatima's life or anyone whose life is full of violation and unfairness. The signification of this message is that the black color shown in the image and the white is evident in the large text size to draw attention and to emphasize not to reconcile, as it's shown on the red effect around the eyes to warn and alert people about their violence. So the image treated a woman without features except for the bleeding eyes, which might reflect a miserable or psychologically distorted woman, like what she feels inside appears on her outside. Finally, the signifier of the last message shows a black and bleeding eye contains several eyes inside, with a hashtag in the top, Jarimet Jarash means in English, Jarash crime. The hidden meaning or the connotation of this message is the red circles on the left side of the eye, which represent rage and the anger of the protesters. Accordingly, the angry eyes inside represent people's solidarity with Fatima because of the injustice and violence that she was exposed to, and their desire to revenge. So the language of the eyes is the most expressive area of the true feelings of a human being, such as anger and sadness. So the black eye reflects the oppression or the blindness that Fatima suffered from because of losing her scene. So what is the signification? The significance of the image is that although Fatima lost her eyes, the crime opened people's eyes to the injustice and her husband's crime. To sum up, the conclusion of the study is that the messages and the meanings of the posters are very expressive of domestic violence because of the symbols, colors, characters, and words. But my notification is that there is a missing element of the posters that was not addressed, such as Fatima's children who witnessed the crime. So it would be better to include all the parties of the crime within these posters, not only the mother. So the posters might be more effective or impressive if they tackle the consequences of the violent acts in front of innocent children in terms of pictures or text. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Bye-bye.